when we've been talking about diseases, we started with Alzheimer's, and that was talking about cell transport in the cell membrane. In this unit, we focused on an infectious disease, which are caused by viruses, and we talked a little bit about Ebola. What we focused on were the parts of a cell that are impacted by an infectious disease. And there were several of those parts. The first and most important part of the cell that's affected was the nucleus. The nucleus is the part of the cell that tells the cell what to do. We gave it the nickname the brain. When a virus invades a cell, that's where the information goes. It tells the nucleus to tell the cell to no longer act like a healthy cell, but to make more viruses, to become a virus factory. The second part of the cell that has to do with viruses that we talked about was the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus we nicknamed the post office because its job is to package and ship things out. In our body, when we're exposed to a virus, our B cells, which is a cell that is in our immune system, makes antibodies to that virus. These little proteins that attach to the virus and try and kill it off, or attach to the cell that's infected and try to kill it off. The Golgi apparatus' job is to package up those antibodies and ship them out of the cell so they get into the bloodstream and they destroy that virus. The third type, or the third organelle or structure in a cell that we talked about with infectious diseases was the lysosome. Now the lysosome we nicknamed the garbage disposal of the cell. Along with the B cells that float around in our body and make antibodies, we also have other white blood cells that move through it with our immune system, and they pick up all of the diseased cells and the viruses and bacteria if we're infected by bacteria, and they break it all down. They digest it up. That's the job of the lysosome. When that gunk comes into the cell, the job of the lysosome is to destroy it. It literally chews it up. In fact, the nickname that these cells have in our body, in our immune system, is the Pac-Man cells. They literally go around all through our body, these macrophages, chomping on the stuff that's not supposed to be there and digesting it down. And these cells have the most amount of lysosomes of any cell in the body. They have tons and tons and tons of those. And that's how they protect us from these infections. Another cell structure that we talked about when we talked about being infected by or infectious diseases.
Wait, have they ever eaten one of their own kind?
We call that an autoimmune disorder, when the body attacks itself. To keep all of this going, you need a lot of energy. So the next one that we talked about was the mitochondria. This structure in the cell is the power plant. It produces all of the energy for the cell. It's what makes the cell be able to do what it does. Without that mitochondria, your cells die. They just don't have the energy. They can't function. Another important cell structure that we talked about with infectious disease is we have to have something that's going to make the antibodies. Antibodies are made of proteins, and we have special structures in our cells that make those antibodies and make other proteins. And that is the ribosomes. And the ribosomes are the protein factories. They're the ones that make all the different kinds of antibodies because you produce antibodies for every single virus you're ever exposed to. And that's why they talk about you can't get the same flu twice. You can't get the same cold twice because you have antibodies for it. The problem is these viruses mutate very, very quickly. They change very quickly, and so what made you sick one year, the next year it's completely different. You get the cold again. But you never get the exact same cold twice because these protein factors keep making, the virus keeps changing. Another piece of the cell that's important is you got to have some way to get all of this stuff kind of connected together and get stuff moved around the cell. You got to have a highway system. Can you pause that for a second?
Do I hit stop?
Yeah.
Or?